Hey friends, hope you're doing well. I've had some guitar problems recently I want to talk about. I did a tour in Sweden recently, and the last gig was in Stockholm. Great gig. Everything was a little bit crazy, and I had to make it to the airport afterwards. So I just put my guitar in the case. And then when I got home, I left it in the case and didn't get it out. I was playing other guitars around the house. And about a month later, I had a gig. So I got this guitar out, which is the one I always play on stage for acoustic gigs. I got it out, and the binding had just come off. And it's all flabby every which way. And you can see I've kind of taped it back on best I could. But this happens every now and then. It's an old guitar, it's wood, and wood shrinks and contracts, expands and contracts, and things change, and it just comes apart a little bit, and I need to deal with that. But I taped it up, and I played the gig, and everything was fine. And this reminded me of a story that I think you guys will enjoy. I had done a couple tours with Billy Bragg, who is amazing and just a wonderful, wonderful man. And he opened me up to a completely new audience, and I can never thank him enough for that. But I had done a couple tours with him. There's a squirrel over here running around if you hear something in the background. After we'd done a couple of those tours, he saw that I was coming over to do my own tour in England, and he invited me to do 3 or 4 dates at the beginning of my tour. And I'm, yeah, man, I'd love to do it. So we tagged that onto the beginning, and I met him, I think, in Brighton. And we were going to play the first or second gig. I don't remember which one. But I'm about ready to walk out onto the stage, and I believe it was Wolverhampton. Maybe 2,500 people waiting for me out there to come out and open the show. And I'm kind of standing here like this, like on the side of the stage behind the curtain waiting, and I feel something weird as I'm putting my arm right here. I feel something kind of weird on the guitar, and I look down and I realize the guitar had come apart on the top, like all the way across here. I mean, the top came off of the guitar, and there was enough separation as it was pulling back right here. I could put my whole hand down in there up to my wrist. I mean, I put it like down in there, and I hear them announcing my name for me to walk on stage and play. And I'm just like, oh my God, what in the hell? So I was trying to think quickly, and the first thing I thought of was like, is it in tune? And I went ahead and I strummed a G chord and a D chord, and I'm like, it's in tune. I can't believe it. It's actually in tune. So I kind of put my arm against the guitar like this and pushed it back. I was thinking that the tension was going to just make the whole thing come apart altogether. And so I kept my arm on there, and I went out and I played 45 minutes for the people, and it stayed in tune. The gig went great. I mean, it went really, really great. And afterwards, I just started asking all the people who work at the venue, it's like, is there a luthier here in town? Is there a luthier? And I'm thinking, for some reason, my first thought is I'm just going to get somebody that's a luthier to glue this together for me and continue the tour. Now, I had over 6 weeks of touring to do in Europe, where I was playing just about every night. And I started quickly realizing when they're like, well, I don't know if you can even get in touch with, there's this person in the next town over, and I have to play every night. And I just kind of thought about it, thought, okay, it stayed in tune. What if I tape it together? And I got some tape, and it was some kind of dark tape. It was like painter's tape. And I put little bitty things all across here holding it together. And it looked kind of neat. It looked like some kind of weird folk art where I think from off stage people thought that it was actually pieces of wood and some kind of weird joint or something, like the guitar was made like that. But I went ahead and I just started playing gigs. I didn't have anybody that could fix it, and I had to play these gigs. And I walked out every night. It stayed in tune magically. It sounded pretty good. It didn't sound 100%, but it sounded pretty good. And I played the entire tour, and then when I got back, I took it to a luthier there in Nashville, And they praised me about how I put the little strips of painter's tape across there. They said that's the right way to hold it together. And I said, I had no idea. It's just how I thought I would have to do it, so I did it that way. It just kind of made sense to me, but I didn't know that was like a proper way to do things. And so I should say, when this happened, I wasn't shocked. This is just part of having, an acoustic guitar in general. It's made out of wood, but old guitars do things like that, where I put a humidifier in the case and I do stuff like that, but things happen, man. When you fly from Sweden to Indiana, the climates are different, things change. And they go to, this year, before this happened, I'd been in Austin, Texas, down to Galveston, up through Arkansas. I went up through, all through the Midwest, Wisconsin, Chicago, out to Iowa, and just before that I was out on the East Coast. So I mean, a lot of different climates, and I'd been to Scandinavia twice. So these things happen. But I figure what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this down to Nashville. I was thinking, okay, after the gig, next time I go down to Nashville, which I go down often, I'm just going to take it into Glazer, and I'm going to try to ask them if they'll maybe refret it and reset the neck. It's about time to do that. It's been quite a while. I have to say that I'm really fortunate with this guitar that it stays in tune really well. This might sound crazy to some of you, I'll play 6 or 7 gigs without having to tune. Like, I'll check it before I go on stage and get it out of the case, be in a different city, and I'll be like, man, it's still in tune. I can't believe it. And every now and then something's slightly out, and I'll go ahead and check it. I used to carry a tuner years ago. Like, on stage, I would plug into one and then go into my DI, and I stopped using a tuner 10, 13 years ago. So it was one of those Boss ones, and I could kind of hear a difference in the high end, and I just like, hell with it, I don't use it. And I was just using it as a kill switch for when I wanted to unplug. So I don't even use that, but I'm going to take this in and get it fixed up. And I don't know, man. It'll be playing and sounding even better. It's time for a little bit of a fix me up. I'm curious with you guys, like, what are your horror stories? Have you had guitars come apart on stage like that? I've had plenty of times when they've just come apart and I've realized the binding came off or it came apart in some way. But I haven't, that's the only time I can remember it actually coming apart on stage. And sometimes when you're in that situation, you can't fix things. You just got to play the gig, Absolute worst, the thing falls apart right in front of me, in front of the audience, and I get some applause for it. It might be one of those things where it becomes a permanent part of the show, where the acoustic guitar falls apart. Hopefully not. But tell me your stories down below. I'd love to hear it. And I'll see you somewhere down the road. Much love to you.